Hi, everyone. Greetings. It is June 20th in the year 2023, and it's good to start to include the year, which at the moment often feels a little like overkill, but every now and then I get a glimpse of just how historic some of what we're doing is, and it's important to remember actually in all of the hustle and bustle of the day and the week is actually this really is something that we can look back on for years to come and just really take stock of what it was like back then, what it was like back in 2023 when we were concluding 9 months together in this first program that was so much of an experiment. It'll be really fascinating to be able to look back on all of this. So thank you so much for being here, and thank you for your presence and your attention if you're watching this or listening to it sometime off in the future. So as we do, we start in this lit program with lighting a candle if you have one, and by reading the verse that has been our faithful companion with us from the very beginning, which is this one here. So Maria, thank you.
One thing is necessary by Hans Borley. One thing's necessary here in this hard world of ours, of homeless and outcast people, taking residence in yourself. Walk into the darkness and clean the soot from the lamp, so that people in the streets can glimpse light in your inhabited eyes.
So that verse has been with us, and we have kind of, I think, increasingly attempted to practice just what it says. We feel the importance, we feel the urgency of a world that really is quite outcast and impoverished in many ways. And so I've felt many times, and I think we've felt many times, this deepening into a trust of one another and say, yes, this is someone who's also working to remove the soot from their lamp. And we've caught sight of our inhabited eyes in across these screens. And so it is, it's really, I think, a fortifying. It's fortifying for one's hope, and that one's own work is able to translate into such practical benefits. Really, what is more important right now than trusting other human beings, especially the stranger who we know maybe very little about, from another culture, from another country, with another mother tongue. So this type of connection that we've been fostering becomes a very subtle activism, I would say. And the fact that it teaches that we are learning from each other how to do the thing that I need to do next. It's less about looking to the master and more about sitting in a circle and inhabiting ever more closely some higher calling, and being inspired by others in the circle doing that. So it will be very interesting if Orland is not here with us today. It'll be an opportunity to practice that. It'll be a perfect opportunity. So here,
Jordan,
Joan.
thank
Mhm.
you. Thank you, Jordan. Can I make a suggestion that you call to find out whether something's happened or whether
Yeah,
he's joining us?
I texted him, but I could try making a call too.
Maybe you just call him.
Yeah.
And thank you. I'd love to pick up from where you just left off. Those beautiful words about this verse, which is so much has become part of our identity as the LiT Forum. And really this thing of inhabiting ourselves, taking residence in ourselves. As Jordan said, it's no longer doing what somebody else wants you to do or doing something to please others, but about inhabiting ourselves, finding our own truth and being able to try and stand to that while listening to the truths of others. And I think that this 9-month process journey that we've gone through together and which is coming to an end this evening, which is partly sad and partly a real fulfillment of a journey that it's not the destination, and I'll come to that in a minute, but it's the place, it's the North Star which we were heading towards, and we've come to a place of closure perhaps. And it seems so fitting that Orland, who opened this journey by lighting the festival lamp, one could say, with his first invocation, is now going to close it in this invocation at the end. And it's one day before, probably most of you are in the Northern Hemisphere, the summer solstice, and we in the South are happy that it's the winter solstice, that it'll start getting lighter again soon. This is also a significant moment of the year, of the change of the seasons, a change of the light. And what is the change that is going to come about in us after this 9 months journey together, where we have really built a community of people? And even those of you who have just come 3 or 4 times to Orland's talk, you have accompanied this process, because that in a way is the spiritual thread that has kind of followed us or guided us or accompanied us through this journey, along this journey. And as Jordan said, we've learned to listen. We've learned to be together in a group, in a circle around the world, because we are not in a circle within a room, and our room has been expanded to be the world. And our time has been expanded to be day and night, summer and winter. So in this expanded circle of human beings together on this journey, we have learned to listen. We have listened to one another. We've listened to each other's questions, each other's experiences, each other's struggles. And we've held that partly in silence and partly with reverence. I've just been in Botswana at a conference, and we worked with the Khotla process, which is the village council process. And the thing that I learned there is absolute respect for the other human being, to the point of reverence. And that is something so beautiful. If we have such respect for every human being, that we feel a sense of reverence towards them. And I take that from my experience there, and I bring that to you for this evening as a kind of gift for us to take with us, perhaps into the evening, but then also, or into the session. For some of you, it's morning. For some of you, it's middle of the night. Apologies. And I would like to suggest that we listen with reverence. Now, of course, to Orland, it's not difficult to listen with reverence to Orland, but that we then listen into what this journey wants to bring, what wants to emerge from this journey in our future, in each of us, in our individual futures, but perhaps also as a new research community, a community of collaborators who are trying to bring humanness into the future, and human equality and human social justice. We want to bring that as much as we can into the future, and perhaps we can listen into what it is that wants to be born and not think that we have the answers and step in as if we know what we are doing, because I don't think we really do, not in the bigger scheme of things. And so this is an invitation to close our 9-month journey by birthing a new process, opening a new process into, we don't know yet what, but perhaps we can listen into it. Thank you, and thank you all for being here. Let's hear if there's news about Orland.
Yeah, thank you, Joan. Yeah, Orland will be joining us shortly, but I would invite us to take advantage of the moment, the form that arises from the moment, and go into breakout rooms now at the beginning, which is usually we reflect afterwards, but maybe we can share for about 10 minutes in groups of 2 or 3 and really reflect on what's in the moment. What are we hearing from this moment, and what are we leaning into? And then we'll try to stay in the same groups afterwards and be able to bookend with Orland in the middle. So if everyone's agreeable, I'm going to invite you now into a breakout room. And we'll be in touch about when to switch. Lisa, I will put you in a room. Hi, Orland. There you go.
Hello, greetings. So sorry to be
No,
behind time here.
No, it was perfect as these things are. It was just perfect. So what emerged was the possibility to for folks to go into breakout rooms now, which they just did, and then they will go back into that same group afterwards to reflect as well. So I think it very well might be the form of the future that we start adopting. So it's great.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jordan, can I just ask, please, for the prompt?
Yeah, so you should, it says you're not joined. It said you have been moved to room 1. Do you see that? It might be
Yeah.
kind of buried. Oh,
Okay, I
Oh.
mean, why we're going?
we're just holding space together and sharing what is present for us. Very, very
Thank you.
general. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Welcome, Bart. Let me, hi, we're just going into breakout rooms before Orland speaks and just sharing what's present for us and really kind of holding space together in the way that we've been practicing. So I will send you to this room if that's okay. Yeah. Hi, Rhonda.
Hello.
Hi. Hello. Hi. Where I'm sending, everyone just has joined breakout rooms. And so you'll be with someone else for about 10 minutes, a group of 3, and you'll just share what is present for you all. And then we'll hear from Orland, and then we'll come back in with the same group and share at the end too. Okay? Okay. And Henrik, Guada, Ezra, you may talk amongst yourselves. Right. And it looks like Leah, are you there? Yeah. Anyways, okay. It's fine for you to be here, or you can accept the invitation to join the small group, whichever is comfortable. All right. Hello, Orland. Hi.
Jordan, thank you.
Yeah. Here, let me hit pause. So welcome back. Now we'll hear from Orland, and then we'll return to those groups to be able to to reflect again together. So
Yeah.
thank you as always, Orland, for being here with us.
Absolutely, Jordan.
Yeah.
How much time are we to use
Yeah,
for this part?
let's go 35 minutes until 10 after. Does that sound right?
All right. And we will have some interaction time with some reflections from the group, or should we do that now? I would like to hear a bit.
It's
First,
open.
maybe a 10 minutes to some thoughts.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Yes, Elise, please. You may go ahead, Elise.
Thank you.
Yes, please.
Such a privilege. Thank you so much for allowing those of us that are not in the full program to be inspired by connecting in this way. And I'm so grateful. I'm just going to say very briefly that in our group, the theme that showed itself to us was the theme of motherhood and the mother. And that may have some significance. I don't know if that touches something, but this question of the responsibility of that and the joy and the unknown now that we face with the young ones. So I just wanted to bring that in. Thank you.
Wow. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I'll share some research work I'm doing with that theme a bit. Of mother. Nate, please.
Hello.
Hello.
Thank you, everyone. So we discussed a bit of second rounds of initiation, of having gone through and now hearkening back, but now a different one. Dark Night and going through the eye of the needle.
Wow. Oh, Mr. Yanis.
Hello, everyone. If I put it really short, in our group, we had 3 different themes that came up. The first one is maybe a question of how do we all, as leadership capacities, how do we make it possible that the level of consciousness can shift in a group, in a community, or in an organization? The second one was basically the power of agreements rather than appeal or order, or as a creative force in organizations or communities. And the second one is a heightened and strengthened awareness that can sometimes be pretty exhausting if you have it, but something that we can develop, that a sensitivity to what else above and beyond the human world, for instance, the landscape forces and beings is interacting with us and calling us into a resonance. And how do we work and cope with that?
Thank you. Maybe one more, if there's an interest. Hi, Deborah.
Hello, Orland. Thank you for being with us.
Yes.
Well, I ended up in a group with Carolyn, and I was entering in after Jordan spoke with us, thinking about what's been built and what we're building. And we had a lively conversation about building, actual buildings, groundedness in building, and our love of that, and of building with nature. So it just felt like a metaphor for what's happening.
Mm.
Because I'm very curious about what we've built here and what we'll continue to build. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, themes overall that are stirring in my own life. And I was thinking yesterday, after we had a beautiful closing of the Parsifal Farafet's initiative, we've had some weeks online to look at the coming together of this arrangement of music that is creating an arrangement for a new conception in our awareness of ritual, the idea of what parts of the world must be united now to create a whole that reflects our higher shared purpose. And so there is a kind of event in the world now of a remembering of the way the world could be for us all to feel whole in it. This event is a soul event because the mind really can't put the world together in that way. The mind is dependent upon another capacity that has been in evolution in this space where Nate pointed to, this initiation. This second initiation is not just a second initiation in the life of a person, but in the larger world evolution of consciousness. We are evolving a consciousness that could support the agreement fields for not only life, but for love and light, for love and the future that love can create. And so we're not creating a world anymore for self-interest. We just can't. The substance of the world, the substance that the world now has as a future ecology cannot fit into the new parts by the arrangements that the mind understands. So the mental world as we know it is mostly finished. And we're struggling to put together the things that are no longer working. The complexity of it is that we've reached and exhausted some aspects of the intellect whereby we know what we know, and it doesn't work that way anymore. And so we are in a transition towards the consciousness of love that will give our motive some morality, some creativity to shape the parts according to, say, a higher need than just what the body wants out of life. Now, the soul wants more out of our life as well. And the soul requires a shared reality, a real understanding of what it is that we share first, inwardly, as a picture. As a picture. What do we take into our heart that matures the morality for what we then give back to the world? We're not taking it into our minds alone. When we look at the world that we have inherited, the human mind has done some amazing things with the powers of cognition. We've really brought a lot of forces into the world, forces now that we can't control. But nevertheless, they came into the world because of the mind. And I'm just honoring the powers of the mind as a kind of first initiation around revealing what the human being was given as creative space. The very thing that gives the intellect the power to create nuclear weapons came from the deities themselves. They were gifts through the archetypes to inspire us to look into things in a certain way. But to have knowledge without love, we know it's been dangerous to humanity. And so other deities join their willpower with our efforts to say, can we inspire the human heart to think? To overcome the inherited feeling of self towards the future feeling of love for the other as self, with self, and create a new world, a new conception for what we call the world. I hope you're following. It's nothing that, you know, outline in esoteric science wouldn't provide you the details far more clearly than I'm saying now. But the basic gesture here is that we all have become the mother of a new world. We nurture the world that will nurture us. We nurture the capacities in ourselves that will nurture world becoming. An initiation that, in a way, happens in the most difficult of times and in the best of times, which is how do we share what's happening in our lives at the level in which the other takes interest and support it from the level of what we say intentional attention to the suffering of someone else or the joy of someone else. What happens to my heart when I become the witness, and no judgment that this is their fault? How could the world be your fault? So we're changing the trajectory of our world by changing how perception and cognition happens within us. And so here is the picture that I'm trying to bring. If the intellectual course of world future continues to happen, we'll see the decline of life. People call it collapse, people call it extinction. That is because the intellect cannot correct the course of world future by itself with what it knows. The willpower to correct this amazing speed of reality, of time, had to have been corrected a few hundred years ago. Because it's almost as if, not almost, it is that those who are working for world becoming are employed by the same forces that tells you what you can't or can't do with your love in the work you do. Meaning the job description that most people are given does not include love as a kind of resume. They don't ask you, what is your capacity to love the world? And many societies now are trying to improve that course of development and give people time to be able to discover their own individual needs more clearly so that they could bring it into the workspace. But what I'm pointing to that is the fact that most of our time is spent worrying about the direction of the world and not having the power, agreement power, to correct its course. Because the economics and politics, the structure of it is already determined by a very powerful unconscious agreement we call money. It's still unconscious for most people why they're being paid something that tells them don't love. We've not yet agreed that people should be paid to love or love what they do. And for whom we do it. Many of the protests we see around the world as a sacred act of trying to correct our worldviews and inspire deeper contemplation to mature ourselves responsibly, are pointing to this imbalance between economics, politics, and world future. Governance over our world is still determined by how we separate ourselves as pieces in the world and not how we come together as a whole. Yet there's this substance in the human being that fulfills itself really at night, in sleep. A time in which we can say we behold the sun at midnight in the body, and when the subtle bodies leave to prepare its work, prepare its future. Esoteric, then science will give us a way to remain in that awakeness of futuring by the exercises we do in esoteric studies to be able to be a seer with world future, and then a practitioner in its creation. Because here's something the spiritual world has been doing for a long time. It's putting us in Zoom rooms for a long time. You know, we wake up in a Zoom room, really, of a kind of reality in which, you know, you're assigned who you're supposed to meet and talk about the essential things of life. And then we look at the clock and say, oh, I really have to go to work. I can't do my spiritual Zoom meeting today. because the body is pulled into a time that is not yet aligned with the soul. We're separated from ourselves when we awake, and from each other by the bodies we appear as in waking consciousness. So people go back to their identities as a preference for surviving the day, a task that the spiritual world has assigned to say, love the other with this substance that I just give you, is still very hard to do for some. One of the areas of research that Elise, that I was holding had to do with this question of the mother. And in my meditations, it showed up in the Black Lives Matter theme, because the three words together in the dynamism is asking to nurture a virtue around the physical existence of souls who are in the bodies of the Black reality. It's to ask, can we nurture the virtue of perceiving love for this body? And it was not only for the idea that that identity is better than anything else, is that if we could choose love for the wisdom of what world history has given us as identities, we may find the mother again in the soul. The Madonna, the one that says, if my child dies, who am I? To feel the loss of someone else as if you are a mother of that person. On one level, it could look like a political protest, and it is a cultural protest, and it is. What's the phenomenological soul experience, where the words, when taken to the heart, reveal something more meaningful that the soul knows and wants to participate in, because it gives consciousness, it's appropriate context for our time. Words are still guiding humanity into initiation. Because now we must seek the understanding that we can give it above and beyond how the words were known before. And so Black does not always have to remain how it was in the conception of certain minds, or white, or anything that we have named in the world, a country, shouldn't remain an enemy in the mind. and overcoming the fear to think meaningfully into words without allowing the words to carry all its political and economic and cultural forces, without me choosing to say, let me rethink that a moment and see what else. What other agreements, Yanis, could we bring to the field of intelligence that have been left out of the words that make up our world and our identities in it, in a way that, you know, our names help us to center ourselves. Maybe all these words will help me center myself and choose a higher vibrancy for my own intelligence. In my own practice for some decades now, is to go into the history. I often call it go into the unconscious. Because most histories, even as they are written, are so unconscious, so prejudicial, so incomplete. And remember the things that ought to be remembered for a healthier conversation about it. It's like, you know, we as children grow up, and growing up, we don't know all the things about ourselves. We just know how we felt as children. And then you sit around life with friends and family, and they start putting pieces of your memory back together, that now you could cognize yourself in a different way. And it makes sense, but only because someone else saw you and know what you could be good at being and doing, and encouraged that. So yes, there are a lot of gaps, and we know that in our worldviews of time past. And the love, coming back to this point, the conscious loving of our world puts it back on course in the evolution of a higher vibrancy. One can even call it mystical or magical. What happens when this force field gets charged and given to our world? Because we may think it's about the things that are happening already in the world, and the time process, the real time, it's not about things, but the metamorphosis of things. Meaning that we will begin to employ again the beings whose will would actually go into the substance and forms in our world and metabolize them, transform them. This space about transformation is about a capacity of the consciousness soul in relationship to the human dead, the unborn, the archetypes, the higher worlds, all of whom must work through our love for this world existence. We can't even really imagine how much power that is. To attract beings whose will to be with us and the futures that we co-create, because we're choosing to be in leadership of our will in a way which we give it to the spiritual world as a way of receiving their will into it. And the world becomes. You know, some people say, well, it doesn't sound practical. It doesn't have enough force in it. And I asked them, how much force is in sleep? How much force do we dedicate when we go to sleep? We just actually slip into that reality that I'm just describing. But we don't wake up with enough force. Well, or even if we do, we don't apply the force as a transformational integrity. The inspiration, imaginations, intuitions that comes from the world beyond the mind to guide the mind into its higher purpose. And we need it to remain active when we wake up. The world needs our inner life. The seer lives there. And if we hold a concentrated integrity for it, you know, the Zoom room that the higher worlds have created for us to be assigned to as a kind of prophetic space gets more revealed. We wake up and we find the conversation that we're supposed to be in because the earth magnetizes our love to find each other, to remember each other. Why it can't always be designed the way the mind designed things, because this is so outside of the natural processes of body, yet guides the body to its sacred appointments in life. Sounds like more like a story than a reality that I'm telling you. But I've lived it. I live within what I'm saying. Cannot run out of the inspiration. It's not possible to lose faith and trust when this heart is truly in service of this mystery that love orients towards us. I think we probably be at our time limit there, Jordan.
Orland, I think we would all continue to listen for as long as you had.
I want our time to be best shared, used in this shared way. Because what I do more than anything else, I love to know what people are thinking and feeling so much that to just talk at you is not my preferred energy right now, but glad that you are giving your attention, and I know it will serve how it's shared later. Well, that's what we intended the course to inspire. It's not force. It's not forcing the world to be some way. It's taking personal responsibility for the social and spiritual significance of the larger environments that go all the way into the spiritual world and return to us as imagination, inspiration, intuition, as guidance. And this guidance does not force. It prepares us. It prepares a context for us to be open to. And the one thing that is true in its devotion to us is that, and this is what the spiritual world says to, I give you my will. The spiritual world says to us every day, I give you my will. However, it's up to us how we take it. The entire spiritual world are beings of will. There's nothing on earth that cannot be changed. Nothing. We say it takes, I mean, thousands of years for nuclear waste to be. That's a mental conception of the world. We cannot give away our world to the mind anymore, including all the things that exist now, as good or not on the world, cannot be given away to the mind. We must stand for transformation because the beings of will gives us their will. It's so subtle that we don't even know we have it. Thank you. Thank you very much for choosing to be in this exercise with us.
Yeah, so the breakout room opens and we go in without forcing it to be a certain way. Thank you, Orland.
Thanks, Jordan, and thank you, everyone. This poem comes to mind. I may have shared it before. It's called A Ritual to Read to Each Other by William Stafford. If you don't know the kind of person I am, and I don't know the kind of person you are, a pattern others have made will prevail in the world. And following the wrong God home, we may miss our star. For there is many a small betrayal in the mind, a shrug that lets the fragile sequence break, sending with shouts the horrible errors of childhood, storming out to play through a broken dike. And as elephants parade, holding each elephant's tail, but if one wanders, the whole circus won't find the park. I call it cruel, and maybe the root of all cruelty, to know what occurs, but not recognize the fact. And so I appeal to a voice, to something shadowy, an important region in all who talk. Though we could fool each other, we should consider, lest the whole parade of our mutual lives gets lost in the dark. For it is important that awake people be awake, or breaking line may discourage us all back to sleep. It is important that awake people be awake. The day that we're in, the sunlight, is about waking to the inner processes that the sun gives to the evolutionary aspects of our own becoming, so that in the darkness we can have more choices as freedom to create from. The night forces are not to separate us as a dismembered being, but it's to give us room to expand our creative reach for what we do in waking day. And this mutual parade, holding the inspiration towards the fulfillment of a higher shared purpose. It's what we hope that this course could continue to inspire, and we'll gather in the UK in July to incarnate some of the work that we've been doing online and within the heart forces of the community around the world, to dedicate again and again this invocation that our will needs our will. And our hearts needs our love. And the world needs us. So this picture of the star that orients us towards each other's future will always, in a way, support us to know where to be and when, but we decide how. The stars don't give us the how to be ourselves. They just show us where and when. The how is our freedom. And we're so grateful that you've been able to exercise this freedom with us and choose to be here as yourselves and with us together. What a journey it has been, and what a privilege it's been for me to have been part of this unfolding. Oh, there's our beautiful little one, all growing up there. Thank you, Mara and Yanis, for holding the space too.
He was actually crying to come back here since we got back to the house in the big circle.
Yeah. Wow. But he chose you so you can bring him to these meetings. So these
Absolutely.
endowments. Oh, dear friends, yeah, I think we're at the close of our time, Jordan.
Yes, Maria, can you finish with our verse?
One thing is necessary here in this hard world of ours, of homeless and outcast people. Taking residence in yourself, walk into the darkness and clean the soot from the lamp, so that people in the streets can glimpse light in your inhabited eyes.